Okay, so good evening. Thank you everyone for coming. My name is Kevin Proteau. I'm the creator and founder behind Locals Supporting Locals. And a lot of us know us through our annual calendar that we print. This is our second. We're working on the third annual. And we actually put together the promotions for this event. And the purpose of myself with Locals Supporting Locals doing this event, and particularly at this time, is because we have local elections going on. And this needs to be one of the most discussed topics here is electro-pollution, because sadly we're not being properly informed, and a lot of that has to do with corporatization, with the big multinationals here. And we're very fortunate to have Dr. Ross Andersen, who came down from West Kelowna here. He's with Unplugged Solutions, and his background is a former naturopathic doctor as well as chiropractor, and he's very versed in this technology here. And so people need to, sadly when people look at healthcare today, they think in the way of health as in pharmaceutical, the hospital, and today nobody goes back to the source of what's going wrong, like what happened to them, where did it come from. And it's the same thing with genetically modified organisms, GMOs. Another term for the acronym GMO is God Move Over Complex. And we're suffering from a lot of side effects because of these foods and because of this electro-pollution that we're in. And this isn't just about smart meters here. So, so you can pick up our calendars, and anybody wanting to sponsor into our third calendar, our deadline is by the middle of October. So if you're interested, by all means, localsupportinglocals.ca. And just so you know, we are recording this event to go on to YouTube. And so we do ask that you keep your questions to the end. Chances are Ross is going to answer your questions throughout the presentation. And lastly but not least, I'd like to introduce Dr. Ross Andersen here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out tonight. So, what we're talking about tonight is electro-pollution, and not too many people know that much about it. So, the purpose of tonight is to get you huge amounts of information so you can make a more informed decision about your own health. So this is the actual logo of the company that I run, which does home inspections. We go into people's homes and we do a complete inspection of all of the different forms of electrical pollution that they're being exposed to, and then we tell them what they can do to clean up their electromagnetic environment. And quite honestly, the results are startling when people do this. All kinds of health challenges go away, and everybody feels significantly better than they did before we actually do one of those inspections. So I am going to ask that you turn off cell phones, at least put them on airplane mode, and the reason is that I'm very sensitive to this energy, and I'm going to be out there for a little while. And when I first came in, I got out my meter and I found a cordless phone that was downstairs, and the delightful man that came to set us up here was kind enough to turn it off for me. And I found a Wi-Fi router, which was in the very far corner, which is far enough away that it wasn't a big issue for me. But I like to be in an electromagnetically clean environment as much as I possibly can. And you'll learn why throughout the course of the presentation. I'm not here to diagnose anybody or give them medical advice, so please read this very quickly so you understand that that's not why I'm here. I did practice as a chiropractor and as a naturopath for 30 years in Ontario, and I saw many, many thousands of patients over the years, and you just need to know that I'm not here to give you medical advice. So I want you to keep an open mind, because this is how information evolves through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. That's partly where we're at now, in the ridiculed stage. And then it is violently opposed. And we're also in that stage to some degree. We are getting some significant opposition to this information, that this information needs to get out. And this is a bit of a grassroots movement. and I want you to know how much I appreciate that you came out to hear this tonight. Because eventually this will be accepted as a matter of course. It may not be in 5 years or 10 years. It may not even be for 20 years, but one day you will look back and you will say, I remember going to this presentation with this guy, and he said all these things, and now the government is saying this. And they're limiting the use, and they're taking down cell towers. This will happen, but it may not be till many, many people have suffered hugely until it's actually happened. So I practiced in Ontario for 30 years. I also have an osteopathic diploma, which I got 2 years ago to keep my brain working. I went back to school. I started doing this work in the late 80s. The reason I started this was that there were certain patients that didn't get better under my care. And that wasn't normal. When you came to see me, you got better. That was just the way it was. We figured out what was wrong with you, and we worked with it until we got you better. If they weren't getting better, I usually went into the home to find out what was going on with their electromagnetic environment. And inevitably, they had something that was affecting them in the home. And we had meters back then that were very, very ancient compared to what we have now. But they worked, and I had other techniques to find out where their problems were. And so I did what I called an electromagnetic house cleaning. And it was one of the services I offered. And I said, look, you know, we've got to go into the home. And so did that an awful lot during the 80s and 90s and even into the 2000s. So presently I have started up again as a consultant. I'm doing this work, and as far as I know, I'm the only one in the Okanagan Valley doing this work. And I'm in West Kelowna, but I work from Soyuz all the way up to Salmon. And if somebody wants me to go to Calgary and they set me up a couple of days, I'll go there too. I was the first patient in Canada to go home the same day of low back disc surgery. Why do you care about that? Well, I think it's pretty cool. Nobody else goes home the first day, and even to this day, a lot of people don't go home the same day of low back surgery. I had throat cancer in 2005. I cured myself of a cancer that kills 98% of the people that get it in the first 2 years, and I did that without medical treatment. And luckily I was trained in the things necessary to do that, and I did all my own treatment. I had cataract surgery in this eye 5 years ago. At 57, my father was 84 when he had his done. I now have a cataract in this eye. Cell phones cause cataracts. And I say that with significant confidence because it's a scientifically verified fact. And we now have an epidemic of cataracts in people in their 40s and 50s. And these are people who've been using cell phones for 10 years and more. Electromagnetic fields have always existed. We are designed for very gentle, slow-moving electromagnetic fields. Our heart beats about 2 beats per minute. Our brain runs at 40 to 30 cycles per second. If you go on to an electroencephalogram and they measure your brain waves, that's what they'll find. And the gland in the middle of our brain that produces melatonin, the hormone that allows us to sleep, runs at about 10 cycles per second. These are very slow, gentle frequencies. And our planet vibrates at about 7.83 cycles per second. Very, very slow, gentle frequencies that our species has lived with for millions of years. The devices that we have now run at massive frequencies in comparison, in the megahertz and the gigahertz range. That's millions and billions of vibrations per second, as opposed to 2, 3, 10, 30. Very, very different form of frequency vibration than what we have now. The electromagnetic spectrum is what I'm talking about here. This spectrum goes from extremely low frequencies, which runs our electrical system at 60 cycles per second, all the way up to the gamma rays, which are in the trillions of cycles per second. And in between is all of the energy that we deal with. We can actually see the visible spectrum. The red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. And then there's ultraviolet and infrared. Those are the ones that we've heard about. And then from there on out are all the microwaves and radio waves and all the other forms of energy that are used these days that we're being exposed to, that we have never been exposed to until the last 30, 40 years. So how did we get from almost no radiation to significant amounts of radiation in such a short period of time? Well, it's something called the telecom industry. And it is now the largest industry on the planet Earth. It's bigger than cars, it's bigger than oil, it's bigger than big pharma, it's bigger than everything. It is the largest industry. And we now have over 4 billion cell phones on this planet, all operating at one time. And I blame the whole thing on this guy, John McCain. And he got cancer on the side of his face. I don't know if you knew that. Check it out if you have the internet available. Welcome. Yeah, John McCain thought it was pretty cool to have a cell phone. So did Sheryl Crow. Sheryl Crow got a brain tumor. This is Sheryl, and you do look like Sheryl. This is before she got the brain tumor, by the way. She no longer uses a cell phone. She blamed her brain tumor on her cell phone. Nobody can prove that, but a lot of people that are suffering from these challenges, once they connect the dots, they realize it has something to do with their technology. So we're going to talk about what electro-pollution is, where it is, how it's created, and we're going to give you some solutions, some things you can do if you are one of those people who are challenged by it. Radio frequency radiation is what comes off our cordless phones, our cell phones, our Wi-Fi, routers, all of those things. Magnetic fields, they come out of the walls in your house and off all the gadgets and gadgets that are plugged in your house, your hairdryer, your washing machine, your refrigerator. Electric fields and body voltage are produced also by all of our gadgets. And they also come out of the wires. They're slightly different, but they're very closely interrelated. Dirty electricity flows on our wires. How can electricity be dirty? It's just electricity in the walls. But what we're actually talking about are frequencies that are not the normal 60 cycles per second that our power was designed to be many, many years ago. Dirty electricity is what we call harmonics, and we're going to talk a lot about that in a little while. And then we're also going to talk about light smog. How can light be smog? Well, the issue here is that we weren't actually designed for the kind of light that's coming out of these bulbs or off that screen. We were designed for sunlight and candles and campfires and lanterns, kerosene lanterns. I know that sounds crazy because we're going back 150 years.
No, not quite.
Not that far? Okay, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. But light smog is created by artificial light. Because most of the light that we're exposed to now, unless we're outside, is actually artificial. It's not the normal light that we were actually designed for. And a lot of things happened when we started with artificial light. We started getting a lot of neurological diseases like Parkinson's disease, Lou Gehrig's disease, MS, all kinds of other things that didn't exist hardly at all 100 or 200 years ago. They were all literally unheard of. And now they're very, very common. Even 30 years ago, Lou Gehrig's, or ALS as it's called, most people have heard about that now. Most people didn't even know what that was. It was so rare. Now it's becoming much more commonplace, and largely due to this technology that we are experiencing. So we need to know that this is a public health concern without adequate safety standards. And that is the biggest concern. And the reason I present this material is so that you learn how to protect yourselves. Because right now you'll learn the government isn't going to protect you. In fact, if anything, they are allowing this to go rampant. And cell towers are going up everywhere. And it's cumulative. The effects accumulate in the body. The longer you use these technologies, the worse the effects on us. Not unlike smoking. The longer you smoke, the greater the effect it's going to have on you. The sooner you quit, the sooner your lungs are going to revive and your body's going to come back to normal.
Like 57 years ago.
That's right. So we are the largest biological experiment in history. The problem is this experiment is probably not going to end very well. And we're probably not going to see the full results of this experiment for a long time. Certain countries are actually listening and using what we call the precautionary principle, which is better safe than sorry. We're not using that here. And our kids, unfortunately, are involved in the science experiment big time. So we have an emerging health crisis. Pain, fatigue, insomnia, memory challenges, depression, anxiety, dizziness, nausea, tinnitus, ringing in the ears, and a lot more than that. These are just the basic things that a lot of people are feeling because of this technology. And when you sit down and actually ask people if they have any of these things, most people say, yeah, you know, I do. It's pretty hard to find somebody that doesn't have at least one of those. The central nervous system is a really, really big challenge for people because our brain is electrical. It runs on electric current, and it's dramatically affected by these energies. My house is interesting because I have all the hydro turned off in my bedroom at night. I have 3 switches that I have to turn off, and we sleep without any electricity in the walls. We have a couple of little LED lanterns on the bedside table. Our alarm clocks are the little tiny battery-operated ones. Nothing electrical, and I sleep like a baby. And if I get 6 hours sleep, I feel just fine. Used to be if I got 6 hours sleep, I was fried the next day. And if I forget to turn off one of those switches, one of those 3 switches, I wake up at 3:30. It's always 3:30. And I don't feel well at all. And I can't get back to sleep for at least an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours. And it's happened to me 4 times since we moved into the house we're in now, where one of us forgot to turn off one of those switches. And it's always 3:30. Our heart is electrical. It's run by 2 little brains. They're tiny little brains. One's in your neck here, one's in your heart here. And they're neurological brains that operate your heart. They're dramatically affected. A lot of people have arrhythmias. The heart goes too fast, too slow, it skips beats, does all kinds of things because of the energies that they're being exposed to. The reproductive system, not just the male reproductive system, but the female reproductive system is also being affected by these things dramatically, and the science behind this is absolutely solid. We probably have now a whole generation of males who cannot conceive a child. Because where do they keep their cell phone when it's on and it's waiting for a call in their pocket all day long? They keep it right there, in their front pocket. How far from you know where? 2 inches. It's pretty serious because the further you get away from this, the better you are. This isn't actually a cell phone. Don't get the idea. This is my remote for the computer. I used to use the cell phone a lot. I use the cell phone now twice a day. I turn it on, I check my messages, and I turn it off. People that used to be able to call me all the time are not very happy with me. One of them is sitting on the end of that row right there. But when I'm at home, I have telephones and I'm available. Other things that are happening to people: fatigue, burning in the ears, headache, ringing in the ears, concentration problems. We have a whole generation of students now who are having trouble because we have Wi-Fi in all the schools. In many countries in Europe and other places on the planet, they're taking Wi-Fi out of the schools because they have noticed how dramatically it affects their students and their ability to learn and concentrate. And they're taking it out, and they're wiring their computers. Here, it's the opposite. So we are the frog in the pot. And the pot is heating up. And it's the cellular industry that is doing it. This is a map of the Soyuz. It's not very clear because it's hard to get a really good map, but this is where the cell towers are. They're over on the, this is the Soyuz here. My laser isn't working. It doesn't show up on the TV. Anyway, the Soyuz is on the left of the lake there. Okay, and the cell towers, you are so lucky here. Your cell towers are a long ways away. A long ways away, and you only have 3 of them from what I could find with my research this afternoon. Am I correct? Does anyone know?
So far.
So far, they're going to put more in. They're working on it, yeah. Guess where this is? Vancouver.
Vancouver.
This is Vancouver. Are we glad we moved out of Vancouver?
Yes.
The girl is smiling. You bet she is. This is Vancouver. I'm going to tell you another statistic. I don't have a map of it, but I could pull it up. some other time. Who knows here how many cell towers there are in Toronto? 10,000. 10,000 cell towers in Toronto. You cannot get away from it. It's absolutely saturated. In Russia, no one can live or work within a 2,000-meter radius of a cell phone tower. Now, the Russians may have their problems, but they're pretty smart when it comes to technology. Pretty smart. It's considered a danger zone, yet here in Canada, they're going up on the roofs of places like daycare centers, schools, hospitals, seniors' homes, apartment buildings, office buildings, and churches. You see this all the time. Come to Kelowna. You'll see them on top of all kinds of buildings. Hotels, Best Western, there's cell towers right on the top of the hotel. I'm not staying there. Oh yeah, two of the world's largest insurance companies, Allianz and Lloyd's of London, are refusing to underwrite cell phone devices due to the health hazards. If you know anything about product liability insurance, this fact alone should set off alarm bells, whistles, foghorns, and red flags. They do incredibly extensive research before they underwrite any product. Would anyone have a problem with me lighting up a cigarette right now? I'm asking, come on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Mind if I light up a cigarette?
Go
If you
for it.
really desire
If
to
you
do
really
so,
want
go
it.
for it, but not
I would
now.
like to do that.
Most of the time I get some resounding no's. Excuse me.
Go for it. If that's what you want to do, go for it. Life's too short not to do what you want to do.
I love this girl's attitude. However, this is a no smoking zone
It's-
like anywhere else.
Exactly.
Okay?
But you know
And if you
what?
notice the difference between the cell phone and the cigarette pack, they have a strangely similar shape. Would anyone have a problem with me turning on a cell phone right now and putting it on the end of that table? Would anyone be upset with that? Only
Yes.
one person?
I don't own one, so I didn't
I
say
don't-
You don't own one.
No,
I
I
love
don't
this.
own one.
I don't want to own one.
You don't own one either.
No.
You-
I'm impressed.
Why?
I'm impressed because you have resisted the
I don't need one.
you have resisted the industry and its efforts to get you to go wireless.
I don't need one. We have communications. We're together, right?
Exactly.
We have a landline at home and we have OnStar in the vehicle. And if one of us is not in the vehicle, we're at
Beautiful.
home. So we don't need one.
I love it. Prenatal exposures to wireless transmitting devices damage rat brains and affect their behavior as well as their testicles.
That'll do.
Who cares if it affects rats? Well, guess what? It also affects us. All the experiments they're doing on other animals like rats and rabbits and monkeys are true for humans as well. And the science is there. There are now over 20,000 solid scientific papers showing the incredible dangers of radio frequency and other forms of pollution. And by the way, the smart meter is a radio frequency device. There's actually a little cell phone in the smart meter. I understand you don't have them here in a Soyuz.
But we have to fight, they are coming.
You fight. You get up, you stand up and fight. You'll understand more about that when we're done here, because your cell phone and your smart meter, they don't know where the tower is. Your cell phone doesn't know that the tower's over there. It blasts out its radiation 360 globally.
It'll catch somewhere.
And then, yeah, and hopes it gets to a tower. Exactly. Exactly. And there are conflicting conclusions about all of this. This is one of the problems. The science done by the industry says, oh, there's no problem with these things. They're fine. They're not causing brain cancer. And yet there are thousands of scientific studies showing that they are. And remember, we're dealing with the largest industry on the planet, with more lawyers than anyone else and more money than anyone else. And this is what's happening. Our kids are sleeping with their cell phones on, under their pillows, just like this. And our kids are being damaged. This is the biggest problem. We're attached to our cell phones. People can't live without them. They've actually done experiments where they've taken their smartphones away from people and they literally go psychotic. They cannot exist without them. It's a really, really difficult situation right now because everybody's got one. I've been to New York City. I've been to Manhattan. Well, 4 years ago now, I spent 3 days there. And I was there, and there were 14 million people in that city, and they all had a device like this. It was really an interesting thing to see. 14 million of them. The electromagnetic pollution was so strong there, I had to leave after 3 days. I actually got physically ill. I couldn't stay. This is what you see all the time. Kids, they are not talking to each other, they're texting. I've seen this in Kelowna, actually exactly like this. Whole groups of them walking down the street, like this. And I've almost hit 3 of them in intersections that walked across on a red light because they were doing this, and they weren't watching. And you know whose fault it is if you hit one. It's your fault. You get the blame.
I understand in England they put pads around telegraph poles and
Yes.
because people walk into them.
Yes. The saturation the saturation in children is reaching high percentages. This is the difference between 2005 and 2009 for the saturation levels, as they call it in the industry. How saturated? In other words, how much, what's the percentage that we've got of people who've actually got these devices? Well, we've got over 4 billion on the planet now. And we're running over 80%. In 2009, it's now up over 90% of the children in North America have these devices. We are, strangely enough, 14th in the world. Just neck and neck with the US. I don't know, something wrong with Canada? I'm being a little facetious there. Why are we 14th? Come on. We're 3rd in the world in soda pop consumption. Did you know that? We got the bronze medal. Yeah, the US and Ireland. The US and Ireland are better than us in soda pop consumption. I don't think that's a very good bronze medal to
Good
get.
for them.
Good for them. We don't drink soda
And
pop.
strangely enough, it's the girls. It's the girls who are buying more cell phones. Why?
I don't know.
They communicate more. They talk more. They're more communicative with their peers than the guys are. It's around 55%, 45% for the guys. And then there's a very small percentage of monkeys using cell phones. Well,
Are those Italians?
there's the picture. There's the picture. Which better be waterproof. And Alberta gets the award for the most drivers who use a cell phone while driving. I knew it. And this is the epitome. I've seen this. I've seen one on a bicycle and one on a motorcycle talking on a cell phone in Canada.
Where's his helmet?
Pardon?
Where's his helmet? You can't have a helmet on when you're on the
Oh no, this is probably taken in Southeast Asia somewhere.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's probably taken in Southeast Asia. Do you think she's dangerous? And it doesn't have to be a she. I've seen guys doing this. Okay, guys don't put their makeup on in the car. However, they do this. Eat, drink, and talk on the cell phone while they're driving. I've seen this numerous times. When you ride a motorcycle, you see really interesting things, because you get a lot closer to people. This is the book. It's called Disconnect. I'm going to pass it around. I want everybody to have a look at it. If you don't have it in the library here, get one in the library. If you can afford to buy it, it's a great book to buy and pass around to your family and friends. It's written by one of the world authorities in this field, Dr. Deborah Davis. She just did a presentation at a conference in Toronto. She's testified before Congress in the United States on these issues, and you will not be able to put this book down once you start it. You will finish it in 2 to 3 days, I guarantee it, because you don't want to end up like this. This is the epitome of cell phone use. And I want you to have a close look around the antenna of the cell phone,
Yeah, I'm looking.
No hair.
where he has lost the hair and the blood vessels are engorged. Now this is about 10 years ago. If you look at the cell phone, that style of cell phone hasn't been around for a while, and I would venture to say that he's probably not on the planet anymore. Highly doubtful that he is still alive. This is what you look like if you've had a cell phone tumor removed. And that's exactly where the cell phone tumors occur almost every single time, right there. I lost a number of patients in the late 90s and early 2000s that were using cell phones 5 and 6 hours a day. And once you get brain cancer, you don't have a chance. It is pretty much unsurvivable. And there are 612,000 in the US right now. Take that number, knock a 0 off, and that'll be the number in Canada. Is there a link? I'll let you decide. Do your own research on the internet. You'll come up with the same conclusion I will. Because the American Academy of Pediatrics is saying, let's protect children's health and well-being. Standards need to reflect current use patterns, which have not been assessed since 1996, when only 44 million people had mobile phones. Now more than 300 million in the US have cell phones. Let's use more meaningful radio frequency exposure metrics, not what they're using now, which do not reflect the actual exposure that people are getting. Numerous countries have looked at this and have made significant changes. These countries aren't here. We're talking about the United Kingdom, Germany, France, Sweden. Look, Sweden even recognizes electromagnetic hypersensitivity as a condition and a functional impairment that entitles their citizens to claim for compensation. We don't have that here, and it'll be a long time before it comes here, but it will eventually. It may take a decade or more. Children are at far greater risk than adults because their skulls are thinner. The penetration of the radiation into their brains is far more significant than it is for adults. And the unfortunate part about this is that most of the children are not using cell phones. Or they're playing with wireless toys. There are hundreds of them on the market now. Kids are learning how to use wireless gadgets at the age of 2 and 3. Isn't she happy? She got a cell phone.
He's talking to Mommy.
Protect your family. Use a speakerphone. Use earpieces. Do not keep the phone on your body or in your pocket ever. Avoid use in areas of weak signals because a cell phone increases the strength of its signal if it does not have a good signal. So if you're quite a ways from a cell tower and you only have one little bar on the little thing that measures the strength of the signal, your phone is going to put out significantly more radiation than if you're a block away from a cell phone tower. And it's going to be that much more powerful. And if you hold it here, it's going to be that much more deadly. And protect abdomens, especially pregnant women, adolescents, and men wishing to become papas, because the effects are dramatic. I'm convinced that cell phones cause brain tumors, so now whenever my phone rings, I let my assistant get it.
Smart man.
Funny but not funny, exactly. Acoustic neuroma is a tumor that grows on the nerve that transmits the signals from your ear to your brain. Unfortunately, the incidence of acoustic neuroma has gone up dramatically, and especially after 10 years or more of use. The acoustic neuroma, when it is removed surgically, 80% of the time results in facial paralysis. The whole side of the face is paralyzed. You may have seen somebody like this. The whole side of their face is dropped, and they talk out of the side of their mouth because they can't talk. It's a very serious thing. I've had a couple of patients that had this, and both of them had facial paralysis after the surgery. And you are now also completely deaf in that ear because they actually have to remove the nerve which has the tumor growing on it. Glioma is a form of brain tumor, and once again, the longer the phone is used, the higher the incidence. And it goes up to a risk of over double after 10 years of use. Brain tumors, once again, 10 years plus, we've got almost 3 times the risk of having a brain tumor. So man-made EMFs are what we're talking about. The cell phone is just one of the many that man is making. Alternating current, which runs in the walls, causes electric and magnetic field generated by live wires, determined by the amount of voltage in the wires. And we in North America run at 120 volts. In Europe, they run at 240 volts. These things emanate 6 to 8 feet out from the walls. And that's why when I forget to turn off that switch at night, I wake up at 3:30 and I don't feel well. Because I'm used to sleeping in an electric pollution-free environment. Does anyone here remember how great it is to go camping and sleep in a tent? That quality of sleep is something that not everybody can remember, but most of us have done that at some point in our lives. Does anyone here remember what it's like in their home when there's a power failure? There aren't a lot of power failures here. In Ontario, they were 2 or 3 a week. We had a lot of storms there.
I told him.
But here, if you can remember what it feels like in your house when there's a power failure, it feels very, very different, very, very peaceful. I used to have my patients do a little exercise so that they could understand this more thoroughly. And that exercise was this. They would go home at night, put the family in the living room, put a few candles around the living room. Mom or dad would go downstairs and click off the main breakers, turn off all the electricity in the house, and sit for an hour with the family and just feel what it was like. And the ones that did that all said the same thing. They couldn't believe how peaceful it was and how delightful it felt and how energetically vibrant. And then they go and turn the power back on and everyone goes and can feel the difference. The thing is, we are so used to this. I mean, I'm 62, the power was always on. I don't remember a time. I've slept in cabins. I've slept at summer camps where there was no electricity. And I remember what power failures are like. And I sleep now without any power in the house. It's a very different thing. Electrical fields are caused by house wiring and ceilings, walls, floors, powers, extension cords, power bars, electric blankets, heaven forbid, water beds, televisions, lamps, clocks, computers. High voltage power lines are the worst. And if they're near your house, you've got a problem. Hopefully they're a long distance away. People that work for hydro companies will not buy a house within half a mile of high tension power lines. Ask one of them. They will tell you. Because these things emanate from all the wires in your house, and most houses are completely full of electric and magnetic fields, no matter where you go in the house. One of the things I do in my home inspections is I show people on a meter the actual readings in their home. And then we turn off the breakers and we show them the difference. And they are laying on their bed looking at a meter that measures the amount of electricity passing through their bodies from the air into the ground. And then we turn off the breakers and cut off the electricity, and the meter goes to 0, and they can actually feel what it's like. It's extremely profound. They're almost in shock because it's such a difference in the way they feel. This book is one I highly recommend. I'm going to pass it around, by a scientist from Toronto, Martin Blank, and this is concerning all of these devices and how much they're affecting us. I'm giving you some books to read if you're really interested in learning more about this, because I think that's the best way. Hearing this tonight is just the start for you. Magnetic fields are produced by the flow of electrical current. It's called alternating current. And alternating current produces magnetic fields. That's how a transformer works. A transformer uses magnetic energy to transform electricity. They're in equipment and wiring. The more powerful the device, the higher the magnetic field. The nice thing about magnetic fields is they don't come out 6 to 8 feet like electric fields. They stay closer in, 2 to 3 feet. But high voltage power lines produce magnetic fields that can travel hundreds of feet. And I've measured this with my instruments. And you have to get at least 600 feet away from the power line before the readings go into a safe zone. So any home built within that distance is in danger, and the people are in danger. All of these things produce magnetic fields, and if you look at this list, it's almost every gadget in your house. Virtually everything you've got in your house is going to be doing this sort of magnetic field production. This is something that very few people have even heard about. I had a book, dirty electricity book. Oh, I'm sorry, it's here. It's hiding. It's hiding. The book to read about this is called Dirty Electricity by Dr. Sam Milham, who is the very first pioneer who tried to get this information to the public. He's now in his 80s, he lives just south of Seattle, and this is a fascinating book about his journey through trying to get this information to the public and how he has had roadblocks put up every step of the way. Dirty electricity is harmonic noise, different than the 60-cycle noise or the 60-cycle frequency that's running on the wires. These are very high-frequency harmonics that now run on our electrical wires, produced by electrical gadgets, including the power supply to this computer. It's producing electric noise that's running on the wires in this establishment. But unfortunately, I need this laptop to do this presentation. And this television is producing dirty electricity. It's just, unfortunately, part of our modern technology. But this dirty electricity can be very, very damaging to the body. The other problem with dirty electricity is that you get the dirty electricity coming from your neighbors. Because your home has a transformer on the pole that's supplying the electricity to your home. That transformer is also hooked up to other homes in the neighborhood. And their dirty electricity comes back along the wires and comes to your house, and yours goes to their house. You get to share with your neighbors without even knowing. And smart meters are a big producer of dirty electricity because they have one of these power supplies that creates this effect as well. Compact fluorescent bulbs, like we see over here on the wall, the little curlicue ones, they're supposed to save us electricity, and they do. There's only one problem. They produce huge amounts of dirty electricity harmonics that run back on the wires. Most people don't like the light that comes off those bulbs, or the light that comes off fluorescence. They just don't like the way it feels. I have no fluorescent bulbs in my home. I only have good old incandescent bulbs. You can stock up right now, Canadian Tire. They're 10 bucks for 12, 40 watts. They will be sold out soon. But nobody's buying them anymore because they're going out of phase. They're being phased out, which is unfortunate. But if we look at the graph on the left compared to the graph on the right, what we see is a very jagged line of electricity being produced. That's that dirty electricity harmonic. It's very harsh. And when people have these in their homes, they inevitably, after they're replaced, they say, you know what, I just feel so much better now that we've gotten rid of those light bulbs. And reading by one of those is very, very difficult for long periods of time. On the right is a nice, much smoother waveform of an incandescent bulb. All of these things produce dirty electricity, including smart meters, and including LED bulbs. The new miracle light bulbs that everybody's raving about that will last for, 25,000 hours or 50,000 hours. There are very few of them that have a really clean form of light. Most of them are not much different than the compact fluorescents. Dimmer switches, faulty wiring, bad circuit breakers, all kinds of things will do this. And one of the things that I do is I work with an electrician. And many times the electrician has to go into the home and clean up a lot of things, especially in older homes from the 60s and 70s that have not had their electrical wiring touched in decades. So we're going to take a little break right now and show you some interesting things about radio frequency energy. This is a meter that measures radio frequency energy. These are quite expensive. They come from Germany. They are state-of-the-art technology. And I just plugged in a device that most people have in their homes, which is not coming on. Because it wasn't plugged in.
That would do it.
That'll do it. So what you are hearing is an audio signal that corresponds with the radio frequency radiation coming off of that cordless phone.
That's hurting.
The reading, sorry about that, it's very obnoxious.
Yeah.
The reading on here, I've turned the volume down. The reading on here is very important because the scientific experiments that have been done on this form of radiation show that anything above 5 on this gauge right here is actually damaging to the cells of our body and can affect us dramatically. Our heart, our brain, our reproductive system. And we're getting readings of anywhere from about 16 all the way up to sometimes 30 at this distance. If I move closer, the readings are now up over 100, and now they're up over 200. The problem with this is, if I turn the volume up, you can hear it. The problem with this is that these things are usually in close proximity where people live. I frequently find a cordless phone base on somebody's bedside table, or in the kitchen, where they're spending 4 or 5 hours a day. And it shuts off, and the reading goes to 0. This one takes a minute or two to boot up. Does anyone know what that is?
Wireless internet? That's the computer, internet thingy-bobby.
That's right. It's a Wi-Fi router. It's taking its time.
Must be getting old.
Yeah, there it goes. This is what a Wi-Fi router sounds like on this meter. It's a 16 beats per second. And I actually found one in the very back corner of the hall here, but it's not close enough to be affecting us. So the reading on this is running at about 160 to 180. Anything over 5 is a significant problem. The problem with Wi-Fi routers, I still get a reading here of between 5 and 13 at this distance. Actually, I didn't have it aimed right. It's running at 30 to 40. And I'm still getting a reading of over 30. And here I'm still getting a reading of about 15. So in most homes, where the Wi-Fi router is in an office or a bedroom, or if they've got a TELUS or a Shaw or a Rogers router, and now it's standard procedure when they come in, they put in a wireless router. Okay? The whole home is affected. And as you well know, on your tablet or your phone, if you're trying to hook it up to Wi-Fi, in most neighborhoods you can pick up anywhere from 7 to 15, sometimes 20 different signals. And that's all your neighbors. So you're getting all of their Wi-Fi signals as well. So it ends up being a significant amount of exposure 24/7 that you're actually getting. So a lot of people need to actually protect their bedrooms because all of this exposure is cumulative. It mounts up over a period of time. There's one more device I want to show you, and Rosale is going to turn on the other end of this because this is a two-pronged device. This is actually probably the scariest of the bunch. There it goes. Okay. The reading is running between about 50 and 100. Going up and down between 50 and 100. Does anyone know what this is? Any guesses? I'll give you a clue. That's the parents' unit, and that's the baby's unit.
Baby monitor.
It's a wireless baby monitor. That's right.
That's what in my ears to
Now, here's the problem with this. The problem with this is about the distance most of the parents are from their unit, and the readings are running at about 190. And I'm going to walk back here to the baby's unit. And the baby, I'll show you the reading on this. That's the reading on the adult's unit. But if we come to the baby's unit, and we go closer, now it's up over 200. The baby's getting microwaved. Well, we now have an epidemic of children who are going autistic at the age of 2 to 3. They're not born autistic. They're going autistic after 2 to 3 years.
So they're getting cooked.
And the suspicion is that their brains are being dramatically affected, and there are a number of scientific studies going on right now to find out if it is, in fact, the baby monitors that are doing it. And the suspicion is that that is probably the biggest factor. There's also another major factor, and that is the amount of exposure the mother gets during the 9 months she's creating a new being. And if she's talking on the cell phone or holding her tablet here or her laptop, or she's got a cordless phone on her bedside table, all of these things are affecting the ability of that developing child to be normal. There are even doctors who think that they can predict whether or not a mother will have an autistic child by the amount of exposure she gets during that 9 months. Smart meters are really no different. You can just unplug it, Rocio. Smart meters are really no different. They are virtually the same technology. They run at the same frequencies that a cell phone does. They are just a lot stronger than a cell phone, significantly stronger than a cell phone. They don't operate continuously, but they give a burst of energy and information that is transmitted to the hydro company, and they give it, in some cases, every couple of minutes. I have measured them that are going off every 2 minutes. I've measured some that go off every 10 minutes, some that go off every 30 minutes, and I've seen some that shut off for a whole day, and then they go off every 2 minutes for the next day. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to the patterning of the smart meter radiation, as I call it. We need to regulate these things. There's substantial legislation to protect us from cigarette smoke, but who's going to protect us from this invisible pollution? And that's why I'm here, to inform you so that you can protect yourselves to the greatest degree possible. Safety Code 6 is what our government is presently using. It is, in my opinion, severely deficient in its ability to protect us from what's really, really going on. It only uses the heating of the brain as the criteria for determining whether or not cell phones are safe. And there are so many non-thermal effects that are affecting people. You don't have to have heat caused by a cell phone to have it affecting you dramatically. What I want you to look at here is the levels here of some of the health challenges, okay? This is where people can start to feel a cell phone. Decreased cell growth occurs here. Childhood leukemias, when there's this level of exposure here. Altered white blood cells in school children occurring here. Headaches, dizziness, fatigue here. And look at the safety levels. This is Canada, the green one. That's where our government has set the safety levels, yet way below there, we're getting health challenges that are significant. Some countries, like China, Italy, Russia, Switzerland, Bulgaria, these countries have set their levels at least at levels that make some more sense. But the United Kingdom is even worse than Canada. And the safety levels are such that virtually all of their population is being exposed to levels that are simply out of the realm of common sense. They just don't make any sense. And it's the Western Alliance countries.
That's a dirty word, common sense.
Common sense, a dirty word, absolutely. Canada, USA, Great Britain, Australia, and New Zealand. Our limits are at least 100 times higher than in Russia, China, Italy, Switzerland, and many other European countries. Austria is the country that is taking the lead in protecting their citizens. The World Health Organization has now named EMF from mobile phones and other sources as a possible carcinogen to humans. It's a class 2B carcinogen. There is significant pressure from the scientific community looking at this to make it a class 2A carcinogen, meaning not possible, more like probable. Big shift between possible and probable. Italy has banned wireless smart meters entirely. In 2013, Germany rejected smart meters based on a cost-benefit analysis conducted for them by Ernst & Young, which concluded that the savings did not justify the costs. 2012, 54 health experts from 20 countries warned about the risks of smart meters. The precautionary principle is what we need to be using. And unfortunately, in North America, it's rarely seen. A risk management policy applied to circumstances with a high degree of scientific uncertainty. Maybe it's going to be dangerous, maybe we shouldn't be using it. The simple way of looking at the precautionary principle is, well, let's see, better safe than sorry. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It's easier to stay out of trouble than to get out of trouble. We've all heard those. My mother said 2 of them pretty much every day. But we're not doing it because we believe that 20,679 doctors couldn't be wrong. What kind of cell phone does your doctor use? All of these devices are in the same category. This is something everybody can read. It's on the internet. It's 280 some pages. You don't want to read the whole thing, but you can read the summaries. The Bioinitiative report was first published in 2007, and it showed incredibly damaging challenges with these technologies. It's been updated in 2012. Some of these things are very serious. Blood-brain barrier alterations. Our brain has a barrier between the blood and the brain cells that protects it from toxins. When you use a cell phone and hold it here, you actually damage that barrier. This is why we've got so much brain cancer now, 13 times what we had 20 years ago. Because the toxins are getting through into the brain cells and causing cancer. The brain was protected before. And now that protection is broken down by this technology. Many other challenges too. We could go on for hours about this. The Bioinitiative report definitely established, is clearly established to occur with very low exposure levels. Non-thermal, remember I said that before? To electromagnetic fields and radio frequency radiation exposures. Smart meters create a wireless grid, accumulates information that can be controlled by the utility. They can turn off your power from the head office. Smart appliances, which people are now buying, can talk to the utility. They can actually, now with smart appliances, they can turn off your refrigerator. They collect data on when you're doing things. They know when you're watching TV. They know when you're drying your hair. They know when you're washing your clothes. And they know when you're not home. I don't know about you, but I don't like that kind of invasion of privacy. And they use pulsed high-frequency radio frequency. It blasts every 2 minutes most of the time. And this can be very effectively measured with that meter. I've measured now probably 100 smart meters. And they have a switch mode power supply that creates what I talked about earlier, the dirty electricity that runs on the wires. The old analog meters, they're mechanical. They didn't have a power supply, but now every single home has this switch mode power supply creating dirty harmonics. And that power supply is a serious, serious issue, and the main reason is that it doesn't run on 120 volts, like this one that's controlling the computer. It's plugged into 120 volts on the wall. The smart meter is operated by 240 volts, which is actually what's coming into your house, and then it's split into two 120s. That signal that goes into the smart meter is 240 volts, that level of power. So the dirty electricity coming off the smart meter is more than twice as strong as any other dirty electricity from any other appliance in your house. This is really interesting because I took this off the BC Hydro website. And you can look this up and find it yourself. That's why I've got the BC Hydro little insignia up there. Harmonics refer to a distortion of the normally smooth utility power, are actually higher frequency voltages and currents, and when added to the utility power, produce a distortion of the normal voltage or current waveform. Usually, harmonic distortion must be present continuously to have an adverse effect. Smart meters are always on, and the power supply is continuous. They are caused by computer equipment, adjustable speed motor drives, which is your ceiling fan, adjustable speed, consumer electronics, which is all of the gadgets, including a television, electronic lighting ballasts, like in these bulbs up on the ceiling here, welders, battery chargers, and I added smart meters at the bottom of this list. That wasn't on their list. The reason I added it is it should be there, because they do exactly the same thing as all these other gadgets BC Hydro is talking about. And is spending $1 billion going to save us any money? Well, smart meters increase bills 80% of the time. My next door neighbor, between July of 2012, when the smart meter went in, and August of 2012, his bill doubled. And he said to me, what am I going to do? And he went out and bought all smart appliances and all compact fluorescent light bulbs for his house. And his hydro bill went down $5 a month. And I said to him, aren't you going to do something about your hydro bill doubling when they put in that meter? And he said to me, what am I going to do? It's the hydro company. And he did nothing. That made me sad, because the average is a 50% increase right across the board, right through North America. BC Hydro and Fortis are making an absolute killing on the smart meters. And they're still putting our hydro rates up 10% a year. So follow the money. Why are we paying 2 to 3 times more per meter than other places like Quebec for the same exact technology? Somebody's making some money somewhere. The lifespan of smart meters is about half of what BC Hydro's business plan estimates. What does this mean? The future may not be friendly. These things are going to start breaking, and they're causing all kinds of problems that are going to come back and bite them one day.
And the fire.
And fires, we're going to show you that in a minute. Thank you for that comment. Data maintenance and increased security were also not accounted for in the business plan. They are going to need to make some significant changes. The issues are accountability and lack of democracy. You have no choice. They just come and put it on your wall. Privacy and data security, fires, property damage, safety, and the health concerns with radiation and dirty electricity. Most people don't even know about the dirty electricity issue. I took this picture last fall. Just this side of Vernon on West Side Road. Do you think it could have been the smart meter that caused this fire?
Probably.
Took her 6 months to get the fire inspector to finally admit it was the smart meter. They didn't want to say it. But you know what? Her brother saw this happen. He was actually there at her house. The woman that owned the house was not there. Her brother was there, and he actually saw the fire start. He was in the yard. So I don't think anyone's going to be able to actually deny that one. And yes, they are significantly more powerful than cell phones. Way more powerful than cell phones. The real issue for some people is the privacy rights, but for others, it's their very right to live in a healthy environment that is being violated. Because when you're in a neighborhood with hundreds of smart meters, they're all transmitting signals, and those signals are going through your house and your neighbor's house. That's why I'm here, to help you protect yourselves from this on an ongoing basis, because it's cumulative. Is Big Brother watching? Governments may determine, for example, that it's too risky to have citizens off the grid, detached from the technological ecosystem. To be sure, in the future as now, there will be people who resist adopting and using technology, people who want nothing to do with virtual profiles, online data systems, or smartphones. Yet a government might suspect that people who opt out completely have something to hide, and are thus more likely to break laws, and as a counterterrorism measure, that government will build a kind of hidden people registry. You might also be subjected to a strict set of new regulations that includes rigorous airport screening or even travel restrictions. Now you may say this is a little bit conspiracy theorist here, however, maybe not. Because you just tossed a bar of peanut butter in your grocery cart when your smartphone buzzes. You glance down at the screen to see a message that seems almost clairvoyant. Buy some jelly, get $1 off. This technology is already here and already being used in stores in North America. Convenient? Certainly. Creepy? You bet. This is one vision for indoor positioning, a fast-evolving technology that is allowing retailers to track shoppers' physical movements along their aisles at unprecedented detail. In many big box stores, equipment is already in place to sniff out customers' smartphones and log data such as how many minutes a person spends in the shoe department. This is already happening. This is a list of symptoms in the brain and other systems of the body, and it's a really interesting chart because it's taken from the U.S. Naval Medical Research Institute and was declassified in 1972. Now, if we look at the list of symptoms here, this is the symptoms they felt people were going to get or were getting from nuclear radiation. That's radioactive fallout. And some of you here were alive during World War II, and maybe you remember some of that. I don't know. I'm not old enough. I was born in '52.
I am.
You are. And you are too. I thought maybe. It's hard to tell these days. But if you look at this list, okay, let's just look at the eyes. Pressure behind the eyes, deteriorating vision, cataracts. Guess what? That's happening now with radio frequency and electromagnetic pollution. And we have, as I said, an epidemic of people with cataracts in their 40s and 50s. And the ophthalmologists are saying, oh, well, you know, it's just happening earlier. They don't even connect the dots. That's the problem. Nobody's connecting the dots. Let's look at some others. Digestive problems, abdominal pain, enlarged thyroid, dehydration, immune abnormalities, altered sugar metabolism, redistribution of mentals within the body, hair loss. Same thing, that's a list that you'll find. If you look up the effects of all of the things I'm talking about on the internet, you'll find exactly these lists and more. This is out of my brochure. And this is actually a fairly short list, but these are the most profound ones. And I put these in my brochure, and I put the eyes first because that's what has affected me. And that's what's showing on a lot of people. It's affecting their eyes. When I turned off the hydro in my bedroom at night, I stopped using eye drops. I had dry eye syndrome. And I don't have it anymore. It's gone. I go to bed, I don't put eye drops in. I wake up, my eyes are fine. I used to wake up even with eye drops, my eyes would be like stuck closed. I'd have to pry them open. It was crazy. And now it's gone. So I'm wondering if there's this whole epidemic of dry eye syndrome, and it's caused by the electric fields that people are being exposed to. Because the head of the bed is usually against the wall where the wires are. The symptoms are very consistent with the experience of electrosensitive people. Now, let's talk about electrosensitive people. These are people who are feeling these energies much more drastically than other people. The estimates by the experts are that by next year, 2015, we will have 50% of the population electrosensitive. Electrosensitive people have a very difficult time, especially living in urban centers. Remember the cell tower map I showed you of Vancouver? Okay? And the 10,000 cell towers in Toronto? People who are electrosensitive, they cannot live in cities. This is way better than a Soyuz. Kelowna, the downtown core area, not so good. And maybe we're getting more cell towers here. I hope not. And if they do want to put more up here, the people of this community should fight it, tooth and nail, like they are in Salmon Arm. In Salmon Arm, they've actually prevented some cell towers going in certain areas, especially close to schools.
May I just say one word? You know, I am one who is publicly fighting it, and it's amazing how public is blind. For this reason, I didn't anything about that you are here today. I heard it just by accident. Today in Osoyoos, we have on 29th of September, Ombudsman here. So I asked to present all these similar things, because I'm also a scientist, to the Ombudsman. But again, they will be brushing me off because people, how many people are here right now? 3 or 4. And I'm just by accident.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I'm here just by accident.
4,
so,
and we have hundreds of flyers went out. This has been advertised for two weeks or more.
Where it was?
There's 200 flyers just down.
200 flyers around town.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I feel extremely sorry, and not only sorry, I'm angry.
Grocery stores, Bilo.
Really?
Well,
I am going to grocery, but really, that people are so placid, then they will all die soon. No, I will die soon too, but I'm old at least.
let's keep moving. Fortunately, if you remove yourself from the sources of EMF exposures, these difficulties can greatly improve or disappear entirely if addressed early. But the long-term effects from significant exposures, even if one has completely insulated oneself from radio frequency exposures of all kinds going forward, including cell phone use, are still unknown. What that means is, very simply, we aren't sure if the effects aren't permanent to some degree. And that's the scary thing, because some of the most knowledgeable scientists looking at this are saying that what we're probably looking at is that in 150 years, we will not be able to conceive children anymore, because the effects move down through the generations, and we're causing genetic damage, and people who damage their genetic codes before they conceive a child, they pass on that damage to the next generation, and then to the next generation. And if that accumulates, and we continue to have this exposure generation after generation, okay, by the next century, we will be in extremely serious trouble as a species. All public health officials should be alert also to the indications for an EMF Alzheimer's connection and take steps to integrate this knowledge into public health and prevention planning. This would include lowering EMF exposure guidelines to levels that do not have the predictable effects on brain imaging and blood work that we have seen. It is causing massive changes in the brain, and now we have Wi-Fi in all the retirement residences. Why? Somebody wanted to put it in. Some of the people wanted it there, and it's not just in each room, it's in the whole place. My poor uncle in Alberta, he's in Calgary, he's 95. And I was there visiting him in August, and I said to my cousin, who's his daughter, does Uncle have a cell phone? And she said, he won't be without it. It's like his lifeline. He's scared to take it off his body. So he has a cell phone on him all the time, including during the night, because he's afraid. And I totally understand, but that means he's being exposed constantly. And his biggest challenge right now at 95 is memory. And he knows it. He talks about it every 5 minutes, about how bad his memory is. It's a very sad situation, because physically, he's in amazing shape at 95. Alzheimer's disease is going up exponentially, and it's going to be a significant health challenge in the very near future. It already is, but in the next 5-10 years, it's going to be something that's going to be crippling to our medical system. We cannot help but wonder what impact modern technologies have had on the incidence of Alzheimer's, and for how long, and also what the incidence of Alzheimer's has been in indigenous cultures who don't have any of this technology. Guess what? They don't have any Alzheimer's. You go to Ecuador, you go to other countries where they don't have these technologies, there's no Alzheimer's. People are living there to over 100, and they're incredibly mentally balanced, perfect. Brain tumor risk after 10 years, malignant brain tumors, 40% increase in 30 minutes per day after 10 years of use. Heavy cell phone use by teens shows 4 to 5 times more brain tumors by their late 20s. And teenage suicide. There is a distinct possibility of a significant link between teenage suicide and cell phone use. This is the guy who says we're in big trouble in 150 years. If you can watch some of his phenomenal YouTubes on the internet, I highly recommend that you do that. He's a neuroscientist out of Sweden, and he's the one that actually named a disease called screen dermatitis, where they had a number of different symptoms that were being caused by sitting and looking at screens. They have now determined, in fact it was just on CBC about 2 weeks ago, that all of the screens we're sitting and looking at are causing significant problems with the eyes and with personality, with concentration, and sleep patterns. The tablet is probably the worst thing we've come up with in the last few years. Thank you, Apple, for inventing it, okay? Because it's held right here. And it's blasting. You can't use it unless it's wireless. You can turn the wireless off, but if you want to be on the internet, it has to be wireless. And it's held right here, and it's blasting people in the face, and the thyroid and the saliva glands. We're seeing all kinds of different new tumors and eye problems because of the tablet. I think it was one of the worst things that has come along in a long, long time. Convenient? Yes. Dangerous? You bet. Wi-Fi, a thalidomide in the making. This is Barry Trower, is a ex-military microwave weapons expert from Britain, and he's a phenomenal source of very, very credible information. So if you can get on and look up Barry Trower on YouTube, you'll find some really, really amazing information from this man. And he is one who knows what he's talking about. He's based in experience and science completely. And he expects that, once again, we're in serious, serious trouble, and we are already seeing the birth defects that are resulting from this. So with smart meters, let's protect your analog or non-digital or non-smart digital meter. There are locks that can be purchased to protect that meter, and there are strategies that can be used to make sure you don't get smart meters. I suspect they are coming here eventually. Are you Fortis or BC Hydro?
No, Fortis.
You're
Here
Fortis.
is Fortis.
Yeah. And they will be wanting to put them in here
Or,
starting.
you know, they plan, it costs them 48 millions, which we will all pay because, and they plan it to do it either at the end of this year or next
Okay.
spring. And it is almost impossible to ask them because,
Well,
because it's a breaking of contract.
We have a strategy. We have a strategy, and I want you to talk to Rosale about the strategy that's being used in Penticton and in Kelowna, and there are people who are winning.
Oh.
Talk to Rosale at the end. She's down the end, okay? So we can want to communicate with Fortis to say no, and we have a strategy, and be informed, stay connected through emails, share videos with families and friends, educate your friends if you possibly can, and know what your risks are, and be empowered to stand up for your values and your rights. Get a professional evaluation if you can, by me, since I'm the only one at this point in time doing this in the Okanagan Valley, of all forms of EMF and RF pollution. Protect yourself, your family, and your friends to the best of your abilities and resources. Tell others and become a messenger, and stand up for your inherent rights. If you ignore your rights, they will go away. And that's what's happening in Canada right now. And there is going to be a big push because of this new terrorism threat with ISIS. There is going to be a big push to take away more of our rights over the next couple of years. You watch. Every time this happens and we have another big terror threat, we lose more rights. And zero means zero. The human brain is such an exquisitely sensitive organ that it can detect microwave radiation as weak as 1/1,000,000th of a meter squared. And other world-class scientists say there is no such thing as a safe threshold level of any form of radiation. The only safe level is 0. You cannot be partly pregnant or slightly dead.
Very difficult.
So go on wireless. It can be done. That's one of the things that we show people. We go into their homes after we've done an inspection, and we show them how to go completely on wireless. I live in a completely on-wireless home. Safe sleep is sacred. Sleep is when we heal and regenerate. Protect your sleeping areas from all forms of EMF, RF radiation. Unplug from the grid if you possibly can. This is one of the things that a lot of people get. It's called a bed canopy, and it protects their sleeping space from radio frequency and electrical pollution while they sleep at night. These are quite phenomenal. We have these available if anyone's interested. Did you know that for those having trouble sleeping, researchers say that 1 week of camping without electronics, and that's sleeping in a tent, by the way, not an RV, real camping in a tent. It'll reset your biological body clock and synchronize your melatonin hormone output with sunrise and sunset. And you can throw away your sleeping pills. And thank you very much. By the way, this is not the end. This is just the beginning. Hopefully. So we're going to take some time for questions and answers because I'm hoping you might have some questions if you're not all in shock.
Well, it's not a question that Gene and me were telling each other. This scientific things that we have going on nowadays is going to be the downfall of humanity. Do you agree with that?
I hate to say it, but you could very well be right.
I see so many kids, the texting and that, sitting across the table, conversation is gone.
Yes.
You know?
They don't know how to do eye contact.
Yeah, no eye contact.
They don't know how to
No,
look at somebody
you
and
sit there like
communicate. I know.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's very discouraging.
Yes, I agree. I quite agree.
We're doing one way or the other. Reproduction, I don't think I have to worry about reproduction. At 75, I don't think I'm too interested in that anymore.
No, but the future generation.
But the
I mean,
future
yes.
But you might have children, you might have
Yes,
grandchildren, you
grandchildren.
might have great-grandchildren by your age.
I have grandchildren,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's the key. We want to protect the children because we're talking about the future of the human race here.
And then you know the reason.
That's why I'm running for mayor of the city, for the future of our kids.
Good for you. High five, yeah.
I have a question. You mentioned the netting over the beds. I've also heard people talk about certain stones or different protective devices. Can you touch on that at
Yes,
all?
I will talk about that. Kevin, would you hand me that piece of black behind the case? Okay. I'm really glad you asked that question because there are lots of gadgets and gadgets on the market, okay? There are almost none of them that work. There might be one or two that actually do anything, okay? And that's why a service like what I'm doing exists, okay? I have the ability with my equipment, and there's $10,000 of equipment in that case. I have 10 meters, some of them cost $2,000 to $3,000. Okay, the state-of-the-art meters that allow me to determine the levels at which people's gadgets are functioning. Okay, this is painted with a special kind of paint that completely protects. One, if they paint a room with this or a house with this, radio frequency cannot get through. This is used by the military. So this paint is one of the products that we use to shield people if they live close to a cell tower. That's the main reason we use it, okay? You know, the simplest things in a house are to get rid of the gadgets, you know, turn off the cordless phone, get rid of the Wi-Fi. You know, these things are very simple to do, but if you live near a cell tower, now you've got a challenge. It's coming through the walls. You have to block it. So we use paint, we use window film. Some people prefer just to get the bed canopy, but if you know, in your living space, you want to shield as much of that space as possible so that while you're in your home, you're protected and you have a sanctuary. It's really important. So one of the things, you know, I showed you this report. This is a sample report. I showed you one of the things that we do is we look at the sleeping space. We measure the radio frequency pollution. We measure these are our measurements of the actual bed. We take 9 readings of the magnetic and electric fields on the bed of everyone in the home. And these should all be in the green to be safe. And these bed spaces were all very, very unsafe. The levels of electrical fields were very, very high. And interestingly enough, in some cases, I will redo these after we've turned off all the electricity and they're all down in the green. The electrical fields are completely gone. That's why I want people to get themselves into a non-electrical situation for their sleeping space. It's very, very important. The bed canopy is a really good thing, but it only protects you while you're sleeping. So it's another option, but if you're going to be living in a place for a long period of time, you want to do as much as you can afford to protect that whole living space.
Question,
Yes?
is that lead-based paint?
No, it's not.
Because for the simple reason,
It-
many years ago,
It contains graphite.
yeah,
It contains graphite from a lead pencil.
because
Yeah,
many
it's
years
really-
ago,
it's really amazing
in the
paint.
60s, there was drywall on the Municipal Hall of Surrey. It was just being built, and on the second or third floor, they were going to have computers. This was in the mid-60s, okay? They have computers. We had to put lead all over the walls, then put the drywall on, and as we screwed the drywall on, we had to put a little piece of lead over top of the screw.
Yep.
And that might have been, Gene would say, maybe 2 gigabytes or whatever, you know. And now you carry that much in a cell phone and 10 times as much. You know.
Yeah.
It was a half a floor that Municipal Hall was just for computers.
Well, you don't need lead paint because you've got graphite paint, and it's far more effective. It's light, you paint over it with whatever color you want, and you don't even know it's there. We've done many, many houses with this. I've got a good part of my living room is done with this, and I'm completely painting a room in my basement so that it's completely shielded, so that people can come and they can stay in this room for a couple hours and completely experience what it's like to have none of this coming in.
Where can you buy this type of paint?
From me.
No.
Seriously.
Is
That's
there
one of the-
anywhere
that's one of
else
the things that
other
I do.
people can access?
Once I've done an evaluation on somebody's home and they want to go ahead and do all of the things I've recommended, I help them get the paint, get the window film, get the curtains. I help them do all of the things that are necessary to get them protected. That's part of the service that I offer. Yeah, I no longer practice as a naturopath because I feel this is far more profound and has much greater effect than a lot of what I used to do as a practitioner. So many health problems go away when people clean up their electromagnetic environment.
So you really believe that the dry eye that you had was related to the...
Absolutely. You know why? Because if I go and sleep in a hotel where there's electric pollution, it's back.
Yeah, well,
Just like that.
I've just been getting dry eyes so bad in the last
Yeah.
year or so. But I had cataracts too.
Turn off the power at night. One more question, and
I have one question. So far, I've never seen or read about. We are humans. We are part of nature. There are animals, there is insect. What is happening ecologically with this radiation?
It is disorienting birds. Migratory birds don't know where to go. Okay, the geese in north of Toronto, they can't get south because all of their mechanisms are disrupted. It's affecting bees quite dramatically, and if it's affecting bees, we're in serious trouble because they are the pollinators that create a lot of the pollination for our food supply. The long-term effects of this on us as a species are actually fairly, I guess the word would be terrifying, alarming, whatever you want to call it, but it's a very serious situation with the effect that this is already having. I mean, we've got global warming, we've got this, we've got that, but this is an issue that is just as severe, and nobody's looking at it.
But there's been a lot of talk about the dying of bees, and
Yep.
they're not, and nobody knows. They're studying it because they don't know why. Has it just been a...
It's pretty conclusive. It's pretty conclusive that it's a single class of insecticides that are being used on farmers' fields that are affecting the bees. The radio frequency is also causing some challenges, and there, of course, is this mite that affects bees, but there's a specific class of insecticides that are definitely, and the proof is rock solid now. And they've quit using these chemicals in a number of countries, but not here. Countries that use the precautionary principle are going, this just makes sense to stop using it.
Yeah.
And in North America, what do? We go, oh, no, money's more important.
It's always about the money, isn't it?
Agreed.
That's what the
all
smartphone
about-
is.
It's
It's
all about the
all
money.
about the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we were supposed to be done 15 minutes ago, so I want to thank you for coming out. I really appreciate your attendance tonight, and I hope you learned something and that this information will be something you can help pass on to other people so that we can have a more powerful effect on getting this problem cleared up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your biggest hand. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so I just want to say a couple more things there just to wrap up here. And again, it's not just for you guys here, but it's also for the recording of the video here. With Dr. Ross's home safety evaluation, when you do a home inspection of your house, when you purchase a house, that runs roughly between $350 up to $450. Okay, and the problem is people purchase their houses and they get one safety inspection and they can live in there for 20, 30 years. Sometimes the next family goes in and they never check it again. So with the home safety evaluation, it's actually only $195. To protect the safety of you, your family, your pets, everybody in your house, which is smitten compared to a smartphone bill. I think the average bill is roughly between 150 to 250 people pay a month. But then they, like I'm a big promoter of also organic, or I like to call it real food. I don't like that whole term organic here, but then they say they can't afford, organic food. But meanwhile, they'll drop $250 on their phone like that. So you can watch our video. You can go online, localsupportinglocals.ca. We also have an internet radio show, localsradio.com. You can pick up business cards. They have all that information on there. And as well, what I'm going to be doing with Dr. Ross is actually we're gonna film videos, take all his equipment there, and we're going to do pollution tests in Penticton, Oliver, and the Soyuz. And what we're going to do is actually invite the city council, people who are elected here, and the ones that are running as well, would like to be able to get it done in that time, and invite them to come out and see it firsthand. And these are the people you need to be looking for in your elections. Sorry, what is your name?
Vandenberg.
Vandenberg?
Vandenberg, yeah.
First name?
Ray.
Vandenberg. He's running for mayor. He's the only one here.
I'm running for council.
Sorry, what's your name?
So it's Jean Clark.
Jean Clark
Yes.
and Vandenberg? Okay, remember those names, folks. These are people that you need to vote for, because that's what you need in council. A lot of people are talking throughout these elections about jobs, money, creating that atmosphere for jobs. So if you need money, how do you keep it back in your pocket? Start by eating organic or natural foods. That's number one, local in particular, because now when our food comes over the borders, it gets irradiated. It's for your safety, of course, and there's no living enzymes in there. Okay, so you're not getting the nutrition you need. Hence, your body is suffering from this. So there's some of the candidates, such as Ryan Foster, that will be running in Penticton. He's a herbalist, teaches food forestry to kids and adults. He is an organic farmer. He's got a whole philosophy of building a nutrient-dense communities where the food is growing everywhere. The power of the community is a documentary from Cuba when they put the embargoes on them and they had organic foods. And what happened is food was growing everywhere. They had no food. People were dropping weight like crazy. But they realized arthritis, cancers, all the diseases went away. So that's money, okay? So the average household is somewhere between $200 and $700 they're spending a month on prescriptions. So imagine if you don't have to put that money into the healthcare system. For some reason, when people think health now, they think hospitals, and it's just like, that's not health. So imagine that's $200 to $700 back in your pocket, Same thing with the electro-pollution as well. So this is what we need to look at for real change here. This is we're an agricultural capital of Canada, where we are in our Okanagan, and we need to preserve that and protect that. The big corporations are here, and they're trying to take it away from us. Okanagan Specialty Fruits is right in Summerland. They are the creators of the non-browning apple. That is a GMO apple. So they can cut into that apple, throw it on the table. Here we go, here's an apple right there. They can cut it, leave it there for 2 weeks, and it'll look pristine the same way after 2 weeks. Yeah, so they took out the gene that actually tells you, hey, don't eat me, I've gone bad. I got a problem with that, you know? But you know what's gonna end up happening is, okay, so it preserves itself like that, so where's that gonna go? Schools, fast food restaurants, airlines, stuff like that, you know? So this is what the kids are gonna be eating, and it's gonna go back to them again. So we need to address these issues, and sometimes it takes a lot of guts to be the sole one standing up. So it's up to us, we gotta reconnect as communities, hence the whole local, supporting local concept. It just makes sense. Thank you very much.
Please, again, what's your name?
Jean Clark,
Oh,
yeah.